I'd like to call the meeting to order. The City of Belleville acknowledges we are meeting today on the traditional territory of many nations. We recognize and honor the historic relationship of Indigenous peoples to this land and acknowledge our shared obligation to respect, honor, and sustain these lands and the natural resources contained within. We recognize First Nation, Métis, and Inuit who call Belleville their home and support the need of cultivating a strong relationship with them. We look forward to fostering a path toward reconciliation and show respect for all Indigenous peoples who first lived and currently live on the land where we all now reside together. Please remain standing for a moment of reflection from our clerk.
May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Help us to be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chambers minds that think and hearts that feel, always having respect for others so that we may serve the people of our city in a helpful manner and for the good of all.
Please be seated. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none, attendance, Councillor Thompson is away. I need approval of the minutes of the council meeting of September 22nd, 25. Moved by Councillor Sue, Councillor Carr. Discussion from the minutes. All in favor? Carried. Deputations, we have none. I need a motion that council rise and go committee of the whole at 4:04 p.m. to hear and consider reports, passing recommendations, and resolutions with Councillor Chatton in the chair. Moved by Councillor Enright Miller, seconded by Councillor Sue. All in favor? Carried.
Okay, the agenda shall include under report items that warrant individual attention from council, starting out with 8A1, 2026 election vendor pre-budget approval. The resolution reads that pursuant to the city clerk's report CC 2025-11, that 2026 pre-budget approval be provided for the 2026 municipal election voting system equipment rental in the amount of $142,400 to be funded by the election reserve fund. Could I get a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Mayor Ellis, and seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. Are there any questions or discussions? Seeing none, all in favor, that is carried. 8B, consent items. I'll go around the table for this one, I believe. Yeah, Mayor Ellis.
I'm good, thank you.
Councillor Carr, any to pull?
8B4, 8B9, please.
Thank you. Councillor Enright Miller.
No, thank you.
Councillor Sue.
No, thank you.
Councillor Henderson.
It's already been pulled, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Brown.
No, thank you. It's already been pulled.
Okay. Councillor Kelly.
No, thank you.
Thank you. With the exception of 8B9 and 8B4, could I get a mover and a seconder to put the rest on the table? Moved by Councillor Enright Miller, seconded by Councillor Kelly. Any discussion? All in favor? That is carried. 8B4, City-Owned Lands Inventory Review. The resolution reads that the City of Belleville Owned Lands Inventory Review Report and this staff report be received as information to complete milestone number 1 of initiative number 2 of the city's Housing Action Plan. That's been moved by Councillor Carr and seconded by Councillor Henderson. And do you have some discussion on that? Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to staff. And I think this is fantastic, certainly through the Housing Accelerator Fund. We should be looking at municipal owned land for development, particularly housing. You know, I've said it before and I'll continue to say it, as land speculation continues to drive up the cost of homes. You can see it time and time again across our city. I'll point to an example where we need to have a little bit more control over lands that we do end up disposing of in a way to ensure that actually housing is built. The northern portion of the Ben Bleecker property is a prime example. We sold that land. We were told that there was going to be development. We zoned it for development. That property went up for sale once the zoning changed to allow for residential development because the value of the land went up. And then since then, it's now been taken over or purchased by new owners, of which then came back through planning and on to council to get it severed in 2 separate portions, which also increase the value now because they're 2 separate entities that that could be sold off. So, but nothing's done. We just have tumbleweeds and whatnot there. So when we go through this exercise, we need to be I think we need to be very cautious to make sure that we are disposing of land and that affordable housing comes behind it. We do have a few examples where it's occurring, but we need to be a little bit more stringent on that. My question for you to staff is, were surface parking lots reviewed for potential housing development opportunities? I know that other municipalities have done this review, and that's not to eliminate the parking, but it's simply to build above those surface lots as an opportunity to expand the housing stock in the municipality. I didn't see it noted in there whether parking lots were considered to build above.
Could I ask Director Ashton to respond?
I think, the parameters were whether they were being used sort of for municipal purposes, which eliminated them. So basically, if they were not being used and had not been identified for other requirements such as future parkland, then they would be sort of considered sort of idea for disposal. If we could take a look at parking lots as well, if that is something council wishes, which could be a supplemental report to this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I'll call the question if there's no other discussion or other questions. Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. On to 8B9, Understanding Homelessness Task Force, the terms of reference. The resolution reads that pursuant to the Deputy City Clerk's Report DCC-2025, Council adopt the terms of reference for the newly established Understanding Homelessness Task Force to review issues relating to the addiction, mental health, and homelessness crisis in the city of Belleville. And I need a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by, Councillor Enright Miller, and seconded by Councillor Kelly. And this was pulled by Councillor Carr. Would you like to speak to it?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a couple of questions, but I just want to start out by saying, when does the Ontario government take jurisdictional responsibility for the lack of health and mental health services as well as affordable housing for our vulnerable population? We talk about it all the time, but we're trying to wrestle something that is not our jurisdictional responsibility. When do these issues become the primary focus of our 2 MPPs, Alsop and Barisi? They've both been in the riding for many months. They continue to be in the riding. The legislature is not sitting right now. I scan the news every day. I don't see either one of them talking about it. They've made their one announcement on the Heart Hub funding, but they're not talking about the issues in their community of which they have jurisdictional responsibility. And that's outright disappointing. And another hypothetical question or rhetorical question is there silence a form of silent downloading? Simply, we're not going to talk about it. We don't want to spend the money, and we'll let municipalities wrestle this issue without the jurisdictional responsibility, without the resources, and particularly without the tax dollars to make it happen. And so that's left with, how do we try to fund something that we were never designed to fund? So I have some questions with respect to this mandate, and I appreciate what the mayor is trying to achieve here, because right now nothing's really being done. And so do we fill that void or not? But the mandate of the task force referenced development of an action plan. And I guess what I'm trying to understand, and obviously you don't know what that action plan is because it hasn't been developed, but what is the hopeful or intended outcomes that could be realized, or the goal of the task force? Is it solving it? Is it eradicating it? Is it moving it somewhere else? I'm just trying to understand the focus, because without that goal in mind, then it's hard to understand really the terms of reference. So I've got a couple other questions, but I'll start with that one.
Sure, fair question. When it isn't our responsibility, definitely not sure who to even direct that question to be frank, because we don't have a portfolio for homelessness, mental health, or addictions here at City Hall. So I'm not sure who to ask.
I could start with the
Mayor
with the
Ellis,
question.
thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Carr, and everything you said was true, and I actually, about 20 minutes before here, did an interview with the press, and could have echoed every word you said. Our hopes are to find an action plan, and this action plan would be, the committee would be set up, and we would interview expert witnesses or expert stakeholders and cover such topics as, and this would not exclude anything, but Hastings County, what they offer to the unhoused, and that they can't be forced to come to Hastings County, but the services that are offered by all our agencies. Look at encampments will be one thing. Is there a gold seal or a standard on encampments? What cities are successful, or are any of them accessible? Things like mini homes that have been asked for, policing and what police are faced with. And again, the crisis that we're faced with, what responsibilities and what governments. My hope is to have probably about 10 different topics, and those topics will have suggestions or an action plan of whose responsibility those topics will be, and file this with not only ourselves, but file it with the two MPs, the ministers. I'm hoping that as witnesses, we'll be doing Zoom or Microsoft Teams, that we'll be able to actually invite witnesses such as deputy ministers or ministers. We will definitely invite Rick Breeze, our MP Tyler Allstop also, and some bureaucrats hopefully. I know there's some cities that have had success with some of the issues that I've mentioned, whether they're in the East Coast, whether they're in the West Coast. But every city is faced with the unhoused. It's not just us, it's not Ontario, it's across Canada. And this is the biggest social issue we're going to face. And unless our MPPs, who are responsible for mental health, homelessness, and drug addiction, come to the table, and that's what I said to the paper today. One of those MPPs have sat around this table and have seen the issues we have. Shelter beds, encampments, shelter beds are needed, transitional housing is needed. It's going to be I don't think, any success, or it's not going to be a shock, I think, what this actual report will say. There are cities that have been able to move forward, but again, things like shelter beds. For instance, when you look at shelter beds, we lack them, but in order to them, who's going to pay for them? And when you look at about 100 shelter beds at a cost of minimum probably $50 a night, that makes out to well over $5 to $10 grand probably a night for shelter beds. We don't have the tax base. I spoke to actually the Downtown Business Association last week and actually cut out and put on each of the tables what the city or the municipality is responsible for and what we use your taxes for. And on that sheet of paper, it does not say mental health. It does not say homelessness. It does not say doctor recruitment. And Councillor Carr, you're right. This is a download. And as long as you ignore it, then you don't have to put any money towards it. And we're looking at, we've spent millions of dollars on policing, on EMS, on all the ripple effect of what homelessness is costing us in this city. It probably costs more to be homeless than it would be to try to house them, and I know some surveys are that, but we can't do it on our own. Hopefully this plan will come out. We'll put more emphasis on the government, and hopefully if we do a report that I'm hoping for, it will be a gold standard and not only be looked at through Ontario. We'll have other mayors that we'll interview, whether it's the mayor of Port Coquitlam, whether it's the mayor of Barrie, Kingston. Kingston hasn't had success, and Barrie hasn't had success with campus. They don't want to follow the rules. We have to look and dive into this situation, and it seems like Groundhog Day again, Councillor Carr, to do this. But we're not going anywhere the way things are now, and our MPPs have to be called out. Thank you. I hope that's answered some of your questions.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. That's great to hear that from the mayor. And I agree that there needs to be a platform in which this issue is raised and stays focused. I know that when the mayor declared the state of emergency, It received a lot of media attention, and boy, oh boy, did the provincial members of the legislature show up and did the premier take notice. But once the immediate fire was put out, everybody goes back to the way it is, and retail politics continue at Queen's Park. The reality, though, is we need to make sure that that emphasis stays on the province. And just in terms of the terms of reference, there's a couple of things, though, that I want to say. That just because someone's homeless doesn't make them a criminal, doesn't make them so. And I've said this before, but I think distinctively in the population out there, the community, you just hear homeless and you think of certain individuals causing problems and social disorder in the community. And there are those, and those need to be dealt with. I had raised it previously with a couple members of council here that sit on the police service board. London Police Service is very clear. They've changed the policy to zero tolerance for open air drug use, and that has started to make a difference. It doesn't mean an arrest. It just simply means that those drugs are being confiscated. From what I understand, up until more recently, it's been officer discretion, but really and truly, the police service needs to take a hard line on drug use and open air drug use. And interestingly enough, one of the demands of the group across the way was they wanted a place to be able to do drugs. That's not how society works. We all have to abide by societal norms, and if you can't, then there's ways and means to deal with that. The other issue comes, if it comes to arrest, I've heard many times, the police get frustrated with the bail system. Well, it's interesting, and even the province gets frustrated with the bail system. The bail reform is needed at the federal level, of course, but here's the issue. Nobody wants anybody out on bail. They all want them incarcerated in remand custody. Well, remand custody is a provincial issue. And if you don't have the provincial jail capacity to hold people in remand, then the justice of the peace that are doing bail hearings are simply not going to put people in provincial jail. And that's what's happening. I've said this before. Quinte Detention Center is a prime example. There are 3 inmates to a cell. Justice of the peace know this. So unless you're a high risk to the community, you're getting bail. And so the premier needs to understand that he needs to build more jail capacity for those that break the law. The police, however, have said many times that they're frustrated with the bail system, and rightfully so. But that should never stop one agency from doing their job, because another part of the criminal justice system may, in their eyes, be broken. That the only way you're going to fix it is to demonstrate that there continues to be a need, i.e., that you arrest when you need to arrest, and then it's up to the system, which is outside the police control, but other arms of the criminal justice system to do their thing. But to sit and say that we're not going to do something because the bail system is broken, to me, that's a cop-out, if I could use that pun. Another thing that under provincial legislation, the Community Safety and Policing Act, is that every municipality is required to complete a community safety and well-being plan. Other municipalities and our neighbors beside us here have been more successful in getting that plan up and running. We're about to start that, and we have to bring in a number of different groups to talk about well-being and safety in our community. So I think some of these things are going to be repetitive. So I'm a little concerned about whether we have a lot of groups parading in front of municipal bodies, if you will, to outline the same thing. The other issue that I see is that, and I think there's a way to move forward with adjusting the terms of reference as they stand. In 2022, I brought forward the motion, council adopted it, we had the homelessness summit. What I saw was, in talking to different people, that there was a lot of groups working in silos. They were not communicating with each other. They weren't focusing on the continuum of care of the individual. They were operating their various organizations, and people were falling through the cracks. The Homelessness Summit was an opportunity to bring every group together in the room. And I appreciate the fact that the mayor had already existing working relationship with the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness through his work with veteran homelessness in Parliament. And that organization was phenomenal in terms of helping to facilitate not only that day, but to allow us to gain a better understanding of the issues, how to solve them, what works, what doesn't work. And that homelessness summit actually came out with some goals and aims, which we passed back on July of 2023. There's a report from previous CAO that does a follow-up, and there's a whole final day of what we did and achieved in terms of goals. And a lot of them we had sent off then to Hastings County, which is the designated service manager designated by the Ontario government and receives homelessness prevention program funding to just do that very thing. And so I'm wondering, and I'm posing this as a question through you, Madam Chair, and since the mayor has suggested this task force, that the mandate include reviewing the goals and aims of the homelessness summit to get an update of where Hastings County is as the lead agency. So we're talking about the by name list. There was a number of goals that were confirming and sustaining a reliable by name list to better track homelessness, data and access, improving information sharing, and the development of a coordinated access system, which I understand is underway, expanding traditional housing units and housing allowances. A specific goal was set to reduce chronic homelessness by 25% by March 2027, and then veteran homelessness, which I know is near and dear to the mayor's heart, doing the work he did in Parliament, was to aim to end veteran homelessness in our region by April 2025.
So are you asking for an
Yeah.
amendment to the motion, or did you want to ask for a report from Hastings County?
No, what I'm asking for is because it's the mayor's task force, I'm suggesting that perhaps maybe we consider an amendment to get an update on what was completed at the homelessness summit.
Okay, could I get you're making that motion for the amendment or a friendly amendment?
No, I'm just putting it out there.
Can I speak? Sorry.
For sure.
Chair. Great questions, and Hastings County are actually going to be on the committee, but Hastings County are going to be called as stakeholders also. So those questions that you have, if the committee were to get them, we could ask their representative, whether it'll be Connor or another manager from Hastings County. I'd love to ask all those questions, Councillor Carr.
Do you think we should actually add it into this motion, though, Mayor, so that it's in writing that it's going to happen?
I don't think so. I think we can just ask the questions.
Okay. Back to you, Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thank you. So I think it's just something to be mindful of, just to simply get an update.
Yep.
The last question I have is, residents at the end of the day want action. And so they turn to us. We're here all the time. We're running into them in the grocery stores or chatting with them, or they're reaching out to us. Is there a danger that taking on this issue, particularly when the terms of reference makes reference to an action plan, and it refers to efforts in order to address the issues, an action plan that can be implemented quickly and make a measurable impact. So not only is the terms of reference suggesting a report that would then go out to different levels of government to basically paint a picture of what's occurring here, but the way the terms of reference read is that there will be some actions taken to make a measurable impact. So what are those envisioned to be? Is it eliminating the encampments? What type of measurement are we looking at? And then is there a danger that suddenly now we are going to be the forefront in tackling an issue of which we do not have jurisdictional responsibility?
Thank you.
I'll add to that, Councillor Carr, and then I think our CEO has some on that also. I think, when we look at it, the action plan is going to point to who is responsible for our homeless, taking care of our unhoused. And when you point to that, I think it's clear it's Hastings County through the provincial and federal homeless plans. So I think as a municipality, and I think probably everybody agrees around this table, is that we've done the most we can do with our resources, and we don't have the human capital to fix. And I think Matt wanted to add something to CAO also.
Councillor Brown, you have questions, or would you like to speak to that now? Yeah, go ahead.
If I could thank you through the chair to Councillor Carr's point. So just for information, I've got the CAO's report from July 10th, 2023. So we'll have those aims and goals as well as context. Just further the mayor's point on the issue, I think there is risk. If I was at the province, I would further allow City of Belleville and other municipalities to run with what is very clearly a provincial issue, right in their purview, very clearly. But I think there is a conscious effort, the mayor and I have talked about it at some length, about being purposeful in what we're doing and the intent of what we're doing with all the partners to this exercise. Not to presuppose what the outcome of the entirety of the exercise will be, but from my perspective, there will be some very clear outcomes of all the stakeholders providing their input to the task force, and that the picture will become very clear about some of the things that are happening here and where there are gaps. And some of the gaps are very clear. You've explained them. The mayor's talked about them. There are some very key partners to this problem that are absent, very, very absent. Their silence is deafening in this instance, right? And so some of us have reached out to them. The response is non-existent. And so from my perspective, one of the outcomes of this and the measurable or one of the things that we're going to be looking for is to very clearly engage the province and those ministries that are responsible for homelessness, mental health, addictions, all of those things, with data and information from all of the community partners and ask them to address them in a meaningful way in our community, because the folks that live in this community are asking the leaders in this community to address a problem that happens in their neighborhoods. And they don't differentiate between who's responsible, because you're here and they elected you to take care of their community. And so they don't know, and it doesn't matter to them. They're asking for help. But from my perspective and mine alone and staff here, we've heard repeatedly over the years that the province and the federal government wants us to provide them data if we want funding for anything, big or small. And so I don't think providing this type of data from a laundry list of community partners that are being careful with puns, but are knee-deep in this all day, every day in this community is a bad thing, because we have to, and we'll have to differentiate ourselves from other communities that are struggling with the exact same issues if we want them to step up and assist us in addressing it here. We were successful with Hard Hub funding because, to your point earlier, the mayor declared it a state of emergency. And I can tell you the province wasn't in support of it at the time. They were vocally in objection to a declaration of state of emergency at that time, which is still in effect today because it hasn't gotten significantly better here. But I think not providing them with any, firsthand accounts of what's happening here on a daily basis doesn't do us a service when we ask them to, in a meaningful way, provide funding. Because at the end of the day, they can provide programs all day long, but if it doesn't come with the requisite funding, because as you said earlier, the property tax, which is our basic funding tool here, was never designed to fund mental health, addictions, or homelessness. Never, ever.
Thank you. Back to you, Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the comments from both the mayor and the CAO. And, at the end of the day, like I said, I had some questions just in terms of how the functionality would work. I agree that painting the picture is key. That's why we had the motion here to encourage Hastings County to look at supportive and social housing to eliminate that wait list. If we don't have the plan, then to the CAO's point, similarly, we can't ask for the funding or advocate for the funding to these groups. So painting that clear picture will be key. I think we still have to continually, as part of that communication plan, if you will, to remind residents that that we are limited as to what we can do and being a voice. And I know talking to residents when they, put demand that we should do something, I usually ask rhetorically or ask the question of how much do you want to pay in property taxes? Because we don't have the funds to build these facilities, but if you want them built, it's 35, 40% tax increase, we'll do it. But considering most people are already paying provincial tax and we still have that Ontario health tax that's being included on everybody's income tax, the province has ways and means in which to fund it. So I think at the same token is not only do we paint the need, but we also continue and ask residents to join our voices to contact their MPPs. And this is not about brushing it off. It's simply about jurisdictional responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Chair. My question may sound very similar, but in fact, I think it's a slightly different take. We talk about developing an action communications plan that can be implemented and make an impact on the crisis in the city, and it doesn't declare ownership. But I'm not sure I yet understand what's different from the Homelessness Summit that we held when we first came in 2023. There was a whole community resource, very, very focused effort on addressing homelessness here in the city, and the outcome from that was the application to the Heart Hub. So in the case of the Homelessness Summit, we came up with action plans and we handed them off to Hastings County. In the case of that, the second homelessness, where all of the social agencies, United Way, Mental Health, Enrichment Center, MPPs, Minister of the provincial minister, all got huddled into a room and came out with a plan that was subsequently handed off to the United Way / CMHA as the owners and the applicants for a Heart Hub. So I'm not sure I'm yet have that clarity around, are we just going to do it again? Like, what are we expecting that's going to be different from the work that's already been done?
I'm going to ask the CAO to answer that, please.
Through the chair to Councillor Brown. From my perspective, I don't know that there will be significant, it'll be a smaller group, much more focused, resulting in a written report. From my perspective, mine alone, I can only speak for mine, I don't think there's been significant movement forward since the summit. I think the province, they gave us a little bit of screen time after the summit. There was a little bit of focus on us, and there has been, if anything, again, being downtown every day, there's been a marked uptick in the issues. So there's, and again, anecdotally, because the by name list, my understanding has increased, but subjectively, they know there's more people that don't participate in the by name list, right? I mean, if you participate in social services committees, you know that the county staff know there are more people that are not on the list than are on the list. There's transient folks that just don't have the wherewithal to participate or will not participate in anything formal. So the uptick in anecdotal, non-counted folks that are homeless in our community has gone up since the start of term. The volume of police interaction and information that they provide us, different types of calls, all of those things that that lead to calls to you folks from constituents, the mayor's office, it's not improving. And so I don't know that the voters and the residents of the city of Belleville would not anticipate that we would address it or continue to address it with our provincial and federal counterparts seeking further assistance. And I'm not saying that there's no value in it. I think this housing summit shone a bright light on the problem that was here, but I don't think the result was what we anticipated. I don't think we moved forward in a meaningful way with assistance from the folks that can address it meaningful. We've said it here already. There's no one in this building, in any of our departments, that has this in their portfolio. Not one, right? And so we're trying to get assistance from the people who have it clearly in their portfolio and have the funding that can make a meaningful difference in the residents' quality of life here, both residents in homes and residents that are here that are unhoused and have mental health and addiction issues, and are not being serviced by the people that can service them. And so I don't think we can just, because we've done it once, let it go. And we may do this, and next term, for those of you that decide to come back here or are back here, we may do it again and again and again. Not the definition of insanity, but because it requires continual work to address it in a meaningful way.
So if I may, then just to follow up, and I appreciate where we're coming from. I'm just concerned that we're not going to hear anything new that we haven't heard before, and I appreciate that sometimes you just got to tell somebody 7 times before they finally get it. That's the rule. You tell them 7 times, maybe they'll finally get it, and this would be 3. So we got lots more to come. But that having been said, I know the amount of time that we've all spent around this table trying to get our residents educated, because a lot of people make assumptions that it's us. So trying to educate them, whether that be through telephone calls or emails or social media and all of the above, that we've continually said, this is a direction, call your MPP. And my fear is if we open up this discussion again and collect this information again, it puts us as the face front and makes us accountable to solve it. And so what I'm really hoping is part of that communications plan is call your MPP, call the Ministry of. Because at the end of the day, the biggest frustration for all of us as councillors is continually saying, call your MPP, because that's who's responsible. And our MPPs, both of them, because we have to, sit in silence. So I appreciate we're just trying to get something and put it in their face again. My concern is that we've already done all of this work, all of these agencies have provided all of this data, and so what's going to be different is at the end of the day. So.
Yes, through you.
Thank you, and I do appreciate some will be overlap, but some won't be. Part of it, one of the topics would be economic impact of what it's costing our city and what it's costing our merchants. Witnesses would be called, or stakeholders such as Chris King, Danielle from the DBIA, Chamber of Commerce and things like that. We'll look at policing. Is there a better way that other cities do policing? We'll look at encampments, again, going back to that. I think a lot of these topics weren't covered at that particular housing summit. And then again, we've got to hold Hastings County, like Councillor Carr said, those recommendations. When you look at the buy list and the recommendation, I think that Councillor Carr said 25% reduction. Well, it's probably a 50% increase. That's something we should look at also. So if there's any topics that anybody around council want us to discuss, it's still open. And I think any rabbit holes you think we should go down. Also, I challenge council, if anybody has any witnesses that they know of, whether that be somebody in BC, somebody that you've read about, or some city that you have inquired about, send us the names and we can get them and interview them also. So I think this is going to point to the province, more to the province. I think that, again, sometimes you can shout it, but keep getting the message out. We are front and center, whether we like it or not. I am front and center on this. The calls I still get, every morning I come in and see the pink slips. The message still hasn't got out to a lot of people that it is still the province's responsibility. I'm only one voice, you're only one voice all around this table. I know the media is covering this tonight. I wasn't too favorable to the press today with words about my MPPs. I probably will have some repercussions, but call it what it is. I don't think they even answer a letter, and we should probably look back for next council meeting, letters that we've sent them, whether it's the unhoused, whether it's economic letters that we've sent them, and see how many answers we've got back. But I can think of probably 5 letters or so that we've asked response, and I don't remember one coming across my desk. We're going to have a minister in, the housing minister in this week, I think, to present us a check. Maybe we can check to see if we send him any letters and hand deliver them to them. But it'll be interesting. Will our MPPs come to testify, or will they come to talk about this at the committee? And if they do, and I hope they do, some of the questions that we'll have for them through yourself that you'll probably want to give to me and will be interesting. If they don't come, then on record they're going to be called out to say this is what they think of the city of Belleville. They're not even interested in coming in front of us. I don't see a report that's ever been done like this before in the sense of the format of our recommendations, and it'll clearly say what the city's done and what other cities have had best practices trying to move down this road. So hopefully a bit of different report, but again, I don't know where we're going with this. It's the worst social issue we ever faced with, and as I think our CAO said, somebody has deaf ears at Queen's Park.
If I may, just,
Yeah.
Mayor Ellis, you've just cited several things that I've not heard that have been in any of the reports before. And I wasn't getting that from the terms of reference.
Yeah.
So again, a suggestion, it's those kinds of examples of what will make this different, I think will change the tone and the input that you get.
And it's, we're kind of on the fly with this. If there's any topics that I think we'll be able to discuss probably 8 to 10 topics. If there's any topics that anybody on council or anybody in the public think that we should cover, we can look at that. And the other thing is we're going to have briefs. So something, for instance, if somebody phones you from Yeoman Street but doesn't want to testify or doesn't want to come to the committee or doesn't have enough, they can do up to 1,000-page brief, which the committee will receive. So it'll be open for anybody to submit briefs. If they have enough to add, then they can come and obviously testify in front of the committee also.
Thank you. Councillor Enright Miller?
Thank you, Chair. Great discussion. It just makes so much sense, and I just wanted to thank His Worship for bringing this forward and actually creating a task force, because I think there's a risk both ways, and I think the risk is greater if we don't do anything, and it all stems back to money. I mean, we know this, right? And we're fortunate to have an MP that sat around this table in our city, in our riding, and I think pressure. We need to put pressure on everybody we can and on the province, and I think the squeaky wheel. So I'm hoping that the information grows organically out of this task force, and as the CAO said, we need to go to them with proper documentation information in order to get any funding. But I think we're fortunate in a position where we have somebody here that we sort of need to put pressure on again and again and again, because it is falling on deaf ears. So I think we should leverage anything we can at this point. So thanks.
Thank you. Any further? Yep. Councillor Kelly, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Chair. First of all, thanks to the Mayor for putting the task force together. For those that may be listening and not familiar with Understanding Homelessness Task Force, I think it's important just to share part of the focus of the task force. It's to review issues relating to addiction, mental health, and homelessness crisis in the city, hear from service providers, agencies, community organizations, businesses, and residents, and also to develop an action communication plan that can be implemented and make an impact on the crisis, with the City of Belleville awaits further support from the federal and provincial partners. So just some comments about the situation and also the Mayor's task force. So since the pandemic, we've seen our city change drastically. That's fact. We had the housing summit. Through my perception or my lens, there was a lack of follow-up on some of the suggestions to do, and it's been mentioned that Hastings County were the quarterbacks to take that. I think the City of Belleville has not received maybe the updates that it should be on some of the successes or continuous challenges. So last week at Social Services, we're all there representing the area, and we find out at the meeting with Hastings County, we talk about the cost of things. 39 units were refurbished, if you will, in Hastings County at $20,000 per unit apartment, townhouse. So think of that. And the gentleman that spoke said it's because our buildings are old. 39 units, 20,000 the past year to fix at Hastings County. And we all have a little bit in that pot. I checked today with our treasurer. The city of Belleville commits close to almost $18 million to Hastings County programs. Last week, 6 million, I believe, was the figure for housing and homelessness initiatives in Hastings County. The city of Belleville asked for $800,000 to help out with the hub for capital funding from the county. Was it 500,000? And that was turned down. So again, the city of Belleville is going in alone, and we know it's going to be a regional hub, health hub. So it comes back to money, lack of funding from the province, and we've been hearing this broken record now for years. When Minister Smith was the MPP, it was the same song and dance. Tyler Alsop, our MPP, it's the same song and dance. The mayor just talked about moments ago, maybe we should do a follow-up and see if we ever hear back on letters that we've sent. Well, here's one the city of Belleville sent on July the 23rd to MPP Alsop and MPP Brzee about trying to support Pickering and getting more funds for those that are on ODSP and Ontario Works. The letter was sent July 23rd. We're almost 90 days in and we haven't heard boo from the province because it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And we know in research, ODSP and Ontario Works, those individuals that are on that funding are that close to being homeless or unhoused. It's frustrating. When the mayor released the press release, Dr. Andrew Patterson, who is one of the key doctors in Ontario for Addiction Treatment Center in Ottawa that spends time every week in Belleville and in Kingston, in our area. He knows our residents. He knows our clients. Dr. Andrew Patterson wants to be on this task force. Called me personally. I reached out to the mayor, and the mayor's following up, I know, with Dr. Patterson. Other doctors, health community providers that work in our community have reached out to me after reading the press release and wanting to support. I look at who the members of the task force are. I have some suggestions for the mayor, and he says he's open to that. We go in our community, and there should be somebody on this task force from accessibility. We see it in our own community. Homeless individuals, unhoused in wheelchairs. That's an accessibility. Equity, diversity, inclusion. Let's include them in the conversation. You know, CAO Matt McDonald just mentioned in his words that, this is what Mr. McDonald said, the province likes data for funding. Well, let's get the Premier and a few other MPPs that make decisions and are actually concerned, and let's take them on a tour of Ontario. Not the fall colors, but see the encampments in Barrie, Kingston, Brockville, Peterborough, Belleville. It's an epidemic, and nothing's been done. There's been no progress, let's be honest. There's been a lot of talk, but there has been no progress. Public safety, business community affected, the well-being to our city, our well-being to our homeless population, theft in the neighborhood. It's the most challenging thing that I receive as a counselor in my 6+ years is what are we doing with the unhoused? I don't feel safe in my city. And what a sad statement that is. Public health. We just had a big merger. Dr. Ethan Tumiche, right in tight with stats, data that apparently the province has. He would be a strong candidate mayor. We give to the Grace Inn hundreds of thousands of dollars, if my memory serves me correct. Last week, social services signed off on $600,000 for the Grace Inn. Capital. John Howard Society. We know that the Warming Center. All these programs that the city of Belleville continues to support. We pay. We make sure that there's programs. Yes, I'm speaking a little long here, but I guess the question is to the mayor, after all of this data and the effort that we're going to put into this, what are the one or two things that you see changing in the next year?
Mayor Ellis?
Unless we change government, probably not a heck of a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, and I sorry for the short answer, Councillor Kelly, is we need our two MPPs to come to that podium in a council meeting and tell us what they're doing. That's what we need.
Just to follow up, if I can, Chair, just the city can't keep paying. We need the support of the province. It's,
And the other thing, sorry, Mr.
No, it's
Councillor
okay.
Kelly, is Hastings County is underfunded, and that needs to come out in this report also. So when you look at similar catchment areas, catchment area Peterborough, which has basically the same population as Hastings County and maybe even more landmass, is funded, I believe, $1.3 million more than Hastings County. The CAO of Hastings County is going through the data, and it's surprisingly how much this area has been underfunded. And I think you'll find that with the hospital. I think you'll find it with our whole healthcare system here. Sorry about interrupting you.
thank you.
Sorry, Chair.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
just, if this rolls out, that there's a lot of successes or potential things to get done, because it is affecting our community, and this isn't something new. And you know, when we just, final thing is just when we talk about working to make mental health and the homelessness crisis in the task force literature, I feel that we're already doing this, and we're like not hitting any home runs. It's just getting progressively worse and more challenging. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. And Councillor Enright Miller? You have-
Sorry, just to follow up through you, Chair, and maybe to the CAO, is it kosher to invite the two MPPs to come to council and answer these questions for us? Get some timelines? What does the funding look like, and give us some answers?
If I could ask CAO?
Through the chair, it's certainly, procedurally, there's no issue with that. I don't think it's practical, or I don't think I'd recommend it certainly before the task force does their work, because ultimately the answer is easy on the front end. I think once we've gone through the process and done lots of hard work, there will be significantly tougher questions to answer post task force work than if we brought them to the podium at the next meeting.
Is there further discussion? Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Information items. General information, this is just a building section month-end report, September of 2025. 2025-09- building services month-end report be received. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. Any questions? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. There are no support for following letters or resolutions or items of interest, so I just need a mover and a seconder for rise and report. Moved by Councillor Sue, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller, and all in favor? That is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chatton. Move to bylaws. I need a motion that bylaws 2025-161 to 162, 163, 164, and 165, 2025-166 be read and passed. Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Carr. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. New business. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to put a motion forward, and I think it's kind of timely here, and I hope I get support. Clerk has a copy. The resolution or the motion is that the City of Belleville request each neighboring municipality in the region to contribute funding to the integrated Heart Hub capital construction project, and I'll speak to it.
Okay, moved by Councillor Carr, second by Councillor Chapman. Councillor Carr, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. We passed a motion here and a letter went to Hastings County. And as we heard earlier tonight, our application for funding was denied, that it didn't meet the provincial criteria. And so what we need to do now is we need to, as a municipality, to individually go to each neighboring municipality to ask for a contribution to the capital campaign. Quite honestly, and it's been said, the Integrated Heart Hub is not a City of Belleville initiative. It's a provincial initiative that's operating for and to service the region. The City of Belleville has taken lead on the capital construction, but as I said at Community and Hastings Services Committee, we expect and we would hope that our neighbors, being good neighbors, would help and want to contribute to this success. And so my hope is with this motion that we can send letters off to each neighboring municipality, and as they're going through their capital funds, capital budget process now, this is the time. And if we're fortunate enough that they want to contribute, then it'll offset costs that the City of Belleville has incurred as a result of this provincial initiative.
Okay, anybody else discuss? All in favor? Carried. Council, new business, Councillor Henderson. Didn't have my mic on, sorry.
Sure. So I'd like to request a staff report for the December 8th council meeting outlining the best option between either converting the Casino Revenue Social Infrastructure Fund into the Casino Revenue Doctor Recruitment Fund, or the development of a sixth casino revenue account labeled Doctor Recruitment Fund to compensate for the Lexicon dividend suspension. In addition, I'd also like some wording. I'd like the report to contain some wording for a resolution with the best outlined option for the new Casino Revenue Doctor Recruitment Fund.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McCaw. I think to the treasurer shouldn't be a problem to do that in timing.
Through the chair to Councillor McCaw and all of council, there's actually a planned report on just that subject to the Finance Committee in October.
Anybody else, new business? I have a couple here. The first one is that the 2025 capital budget be amended in the amount of $500,000 to be funded by the Asset Management Reserve Fund for updates and access to the door control system. Moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Chatton. Discussion, all in favor? Carried, and it's that time again. We have another doctor. So that's great news. Karen Post, our doctor recruiter, has been able to sign another doctor. This number is 23 that she has done in the last, under 3 years. So that bylaw number 2025-168, a bylaw to approve and authorize the execution of a metal service agreement between the Corporation of the City of Belleville and Dr. Singh, be read and passed this 14th day of October 2025. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. Discussion, all in favor? Carried. Now we go to motions. I think I've got to read this whole one, so bear with me, Councillor Brown. We'll flip a coin and you could read or I could read, so I'll slow down. So automatic speed enforcement, Councillor Brown's motion today is, whereas ensuring the safety of all road users, including drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians, is a common priority for all municipalities and the provincial government. Whereas reducing vehicle speeds help create calmer, safer neighborhoods that encourage people to use active forms of transportation and to be active in their communities. Whereas municipalities across Ontario are increasingly adopting provincially regulated automatic speed enforcement programs as a proven tool to improve road safety, in particular in school zones and community safety zones. Whereas in Belleville, automated speed enforcement cameras have reduced the number of speeding vehicles by an average of 15 to 30% across 11 community safety zones using 4 ASE cameras that are circulated every 3 to 4 months throughout those community safety zones. The reduction is measured based on data collected before, during, and subsequent to an ASE camera placement. Whereas Ontario police leaders view ASE not as a revenue tool, but as a traffic safety tool with the purpose of deterrence and prevention, helping to change driver behavior and reduce collisions. Whereas by complementing traditional police enforcement. ASE frees up police resources to focus on other pressing public safety priorities, whereas nearly 3/4 of Ontario drivers support the use of ASE in targeted areas like school zones and community safety zones, whereas municipalities are best placed to develop transportation plans based on their local knowledge and community input, whereas the various approaches across municipalities present an opportunity to promote consistency and alignment with emergency best practices province-wide. Therefore, it be resolved that the province of Ontario, through the Ministry of Transportation, work collaboratively with municipalities that operate ASE programs and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario to develop improvements that contribute to promoting greater consistency and alignment across the ASE program. And a further of this copy of motion be sent to the Premier of Ontario, Minister of Municipal Affairs, the Minister of Transportation, the Member of Parliament, Bay of Quinte, Member of Parliament Hastings, Leamington, and Addington. So that would be Queen's Park, Rick Breeze, and the Association of Municipalities in Ontario, Senator Amo. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. Councillor Brown, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Honor. So with the recent announcement from the Premier that automated speed enforcement would be eliminated, this motion in and of itself might appear to be without purpose. However, until the legislation is actually presented and approved, sometime starting in late October, it's worthwhile to continue with this motion and what it's requesting. Automated speed enforcement was legislated under the Highway Traffic Act in sections 205 and 206 beginning in December of 2019, when the Progressive Conservative government passed Provincial Regulation 355-22 to make the policy official. At the time the regulation passed, the then Minister of Transportation, Carolyn Mulrooney, said the cameras would be an important way for local officials to reduce speeding. Furthermore, then Associate Minister of Transportation and now the Minister of Infrastructure, Kinga Surma, indicated that this was about protecting vulnerable road users and why it was only allowed in school zones and community safety zones with speeds of less than 80 kilometers per hour. Belleville enacted bylaw number 2023-124 on July 10th of 2023 to approve the 11 community safety zones that we now have across our city. All council members had agreed that the number one complaint that they were receiving at the time, and it's fair to say at the time, it was excessive speeding, it was red light running, and aggressive driving behaviors. We still hear all of those things. On December 11th of 2023, council approved the rental of 4 automated speed cameras on a 5-year contract. 11 community safety zones, 4 cameras. Almost 6 years after greenlighting the network of automated speed cameras across Ontario by the provincial government in Q1 2024, the MTO then went on to provide the City of Belleville with the ability to access their database for automated speed enforcement. It sounds suspiciously like tacit approval to proceed. On July 15th, 2024, automated speed enforcement was implemented in the first 4 community safety zones. A quote from then councillor and now MPP for the Bay of Quinte is an important consideration. And I read, and this is a direct quote, "What I said tonight was that if in 3 years we're making no revenue from it because no one was speeding, we'll all be happy. And that it should be the mark of whether it's a cash grab or not. We are not hoping to generate revenue by people speeding. We are hoping to reduce speeding." End quote. As a side note, Belleville has over 400 kilometers of roadways. Each automated speed enforcement camera has a range of approximately 150 to 200 meters, or 0.2 kilometers, to detect speeding over the threshold and capture the license plate, meaning automated speed enforcement monitors an estimated 0.8 kilometers across over 400 kilometers of roadway at any given time. I'll let you do the math. Another side note is Belleville is already using most, if not all, of the traffic calming measures being suggested by the Premier before automated speed enforcement was implemented. Yet we still had speeding issues. Flashing lights, school zone signage, community safety zone signage, because community safety zones were actually identified by a bylaw here in the city of Belleville in 2008. This is not new. This has been around for a long time. So fast forward to September 2025. The Premier announces he's going to eliminate automated speed enforcement cameras. We can only surmise that the Premier has received some of the same complaints that we've all received in every municipality, or that he's embarrassed that more than 30 speeding tickets have been issued to cabinet minister vehicles, some of them for stunt driving. Stunt driving 12 times in a 3-day period by a cabinet vehicle. Without any municipal consultation, local data, or any outcome measures with which to assess, which the MTO had every right to ask us for, it's right there in the regulations, they've now headed down the path of eliminating this effective safety tool. Perhaps the Minister of Transportation would be more than willing to provide us with the road safety rationale and data that they use to support their decision to remove automated speed enforcement cameras. They're making this decision despite the fact that studies from the Sick Kids Hospital, the CIA, the University of Toronto, all substantiated that automated speed enforcement reduces speeding and reduces serious injury and fatalities. I believe it was one of my council colleagues said, how many deaths are too many? How many? One is too many. This despite the Ontario Police Chiefs Association supporting automated speed enforcement as an important element in enhancing traffic safety and changing drivers' behaviors. Now the provincial government is going to do a U-turn on its own regulations and the approvals that they provided, whether directly or tacitly, by giving us access to the provincial data that we needed for automated speed enforcement. So while the motion is lengthy and my speaking notes are lengthy, the bottom line is we're asking for consultation with municipalities to identify possible improvements and enhancements and ways of being able to standardize it across the province. Everybody who wants to use automated speed technologies should be doing it consistently, and the ones who don't want to use it, that's their prerogative too. Consultation, not just with major urban centers, but with small urban cities and rural townships. And while our Premier has pointed out that only 37 municipalities currently use automated speed enforcement, what they're not taking into account, all of those municipalities who are about ready to sign contracts to move in with this speed enforcement that would free up Ontario provincial police time, and they've all suddenly had to grind to a halt while they wait for the outcome. By capitulating to those who are complaining, or worse, people who are committing criminal acts towards automated speed enforcement cameras, the Premier has decided to go to the nuclear solution. Before that happens, all we're asking is for the opportunity to confer and provide actual insights about our programs of other municipalities, for those of us and from those of us who have the most in-depth knowledge about our roadways and our community. Instead of spending billions of taxpayer dollars reconfiguring roads, adding more traffic calming methods, cluttering streetscapes with bigger signs, and adding more yellow flashing lights, then and where we could actually be using the money is in housing, healthcare, mental health and addictions. Simply put, automated speed enforcement only costs those who break the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brand. Anybody want to add to this? Councillor Carr?
Thank you, Mayor. This probably might be the last time I speak on it, so just based on what the Premier has said, and he's been very clear. 22 mayors have written the Premier pleading their case, and he wrote a 2-page letter back in a tweet that said no. It's interesting though. I think the only reason why ASE is in the Premier's eyes could be related to the stunt charges that some of the government staff have done. But I think the other issue is it's a deflection from the skills development fund and that debacle that's there. So retail politics rules. But I think more than anything else, here yet again is a provincial announcement by the Premier that is GTA centric. I watched the press conference when he had all the signs flashing and going and said basically that this has to be eliminated. And he pointed to a number of municipalities that simply saturated their cities with them, put them everywhere. And I think I read somewhere that the city of Brampton was looking at going up to 700 cameras. I don't know how that's conceivably possible, but that was something that I read online, which I thought was quite interesting. So he's basically premised the decision on that some municipalities have saturated their cities, and so therefore they all have to go. And unfortunately, I think sometimes they get at Queen's Park and forget that there are other components in other municipalities across Ontario, and we need to be treated a little bit differently. You know, Belleville's approach has been quite clear, and I think from the start, you know, I just want to speak, when this issue was first birthed and the idea of automated speed enforcement was considered, it was around that time that the Belleville Police Service, on direction of the police chief of the day, shut down the traffic unit for several months. Shut it down. So there was no traffic enforcement at all. Now, there was some occurring, I guess, if they could make it happen, but the traffic unit was shut down. And that was said by the chief at the time in a public meeting. So I'm not telling anything out of school. That sent a big red flag in my mind that, boy, we can't have that. And as council members know, that under the Community Safety and Policing Act, the council has no direct control over policing. And so the only thing that we could do at that point is to look at alternatives to help with traffic enforcement. And that's where ASEs come into play. Now, you know, the other thing that we're going to have to consider, and I think residents need to consider this, and perhaps maybe reach out to their MPPs as well, because what the Premier is suggesting, that if this legislation proceeds, that we should be looking at speed bumps or speed humps or traffic calming. I'm not sure how well that's going to be received on Sydney Street, Canifton Road, perhaps Dundas Street East, but this is what your Premier is suggesting to slow traffic down. And I understand the concept is that it's all about deterrence, and you would think that a fine would deter someone from doing it. That's always been the case. I think our police are still now laying Highway Traffic Act charges. I don't think those are a cash grab, or they've never been defined by the Premier as such. I know he's very much pro-police. Interesting enough, I think he had one of the unions there, but the police unions. But the fact of the matter is that there are still tickets being delivered because of infractions. So it'll be interesting to see how speed bumps will be implemented, and then, you know, taxpayers' money being used for it. Having said that, though, and I've been a strong proponent of it, I can't support the motion that's before us today. And that may come as a surprise, but the other issue that the Premier has raised, and I think it's important, I certainly have always made a point of paying attention to what's occurring at other levels of government and getting a read as to what's going on. And the Premier made it clear that the money should have been reinvested back into traffic safety measures. And that's always been my premise when the matter first came forward to the Transportation Committee. First of all, in jurisdictions, and I've said this before, jurisdictions where they've had cameras over several or many years, the data shows that drivers learn and adjust their behavior. We're on the infancy of this, but our metrics do prove that despite the high tickets, which we all knew would occur, I don't think we expected it to be that bad. I question whether people can observe whether there's a sign that says, hey, there's a camera. But the fact of the matter is they were high. They are making the trend down in this short period of time. So if you were looking at it from a statistical perspective, we have a very small sample size to make that overall determination. But it was trending in the direction that we have seen other jurisdictions, and so there was that reduction. That's always been my hope or goal, that we would see the behavior change, the ticket revenue go down. But if there was net revenue from that, that we would turn around and reinvest that into traffic safety initiatives. Council's decided to not go that route. I haven't supported, and I didn't put my hand up today because ASE money is using to buy doctors. We've used ASE money for the bridge hub, and I didn't agree with that. I felt that it should be going into traffic safety. So I have a little bit of a conflict in my mind, because how can we advocate to the province that we want to have a program that's about traffic safety, and yet we're not reinvesting into traffic safety? And so the way the motion reads here today, without making a clear distinction of reinvesting into traffic safety initiatives, but using any net revenue that may dry up, quite honestly, if the program were to continue, and that's what I had always hoped, that it simply, I can't support as is, because that was one of the concerns that the Premier, and I'm sure others in his government, have said that's been a concern, and one of the reasons why he's targeting this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none? Oh, Councillor Henderson.
Thank you. And this will be the last time I'll speak on this, because I've exhausted everything I've had to say several times. You know, I looked at the money we build, I guess you could call it build, we created, we generated. I know we didn't see all of it. Some of it went to Quinte West, and they never had a speed camera. Some of it went to other areas in Hastings County, and they never had a speed camera. But that is how it works. Through Provincial Offences Act, the money goes in the pot, and it is divided amongst Hastings County. So we're not seeing all that we're collecting. But if we were, all of that money that we generated from the speed camera, you know, I kind of just did a rough math calculation. We could have hired 2 traffic officers. They could have focused on more than speed enforcement. They could have focused on red light issues, intersection issues, a big one, distracted driving, impaired driving. All of those issues, those 2 officers could have focused on, and we could have paid their wage with that money for 10 years or more. That's just a rough calculation. 2 officers, 10 years out of the money we've already collected in 11 months. That's the number I had, 4,366,000 plus. So we could have done that. Now, I haven't always agreed with the Premier. In fact, I seldom agree with the Premier, but in this particular case, I do. And I think if we look at what he has stated here, we'll just use this one for example. From January to August this year alone, the City of Toronto issued more than 50,000 tickets and collected more than $30 million without the revenue being used for traffic calming infrastructure. In the Waterloo region, speed cameras issued more than 5,000 tickets in the first 6 months of the program without revenue being used for traffic calming infrastructure. In Oakville, speed cameras issued more than 17,000 tickets in just 3 months with the revenue being used for traffic calming infrastructure. In Vaughan, speed cameras issued more than 32,000 tickets in just 3 weeks without the revenue being used for traffic calming infrastructure. Now, I might not agree with some of the things Councillor Carr has said, but I did have a conversation with him when I first got here. And we talked about this, and he basically let me know very clearly that the money was to be used to go back in for traffic measures. So did we do that? Since I've been here, no. We have given it to everybody but where it should have gone. So I'm not going to support it for all the reasons I've said before. I do believe in having them in school zones during school hours. The survey I put out, that's what came back to me. That's what residents wanted, and I think that would be fine. But I don't think the way this motion is written that I can support it, because it goes beyond that. So, you know, if this vote comes, I believe October 20th, couldn't come soon enough for me. I really, really hope that it does go through and we do eliminate speed cameras. And I would be a proponent to actually hire more police officers, because we've been short of police officers for years and years and years. And I think it's time we had to look at that. And I think just that alone, those 2 officers could pay their wage and more and offer more in terms of traffic safety than what municipal speed cameras can do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? I'm going to call the vote on this. Councilor Enright Miller?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple comments. Being on the Police Services Board, we're always recruiting officers. Very, very hard to hire officers in this climate. Traffic stops are one of the worst things they have to do in this climate. You never know what you're going to encounter when you go up beside a car door. It's not like it used to be, so we hear that loud and clear. I would support this motion. And just about, I agree that we want this to wash up. We want the funds to go away, that everybody gets the plan and knows to slow down. Like Councillor Brown said, if we save one life, I'm all in. The money that we collect, yes, we diverted from where we thought it was going to go, but the money that we used it for, the doctor recruitment and the hub, is also money that we should be getting from the province. So why shouldn't we use it for something like this and not off the tax bill for the residents? Why shouldn't we use that kind of money for people that are breaking the law and supporting the cause? And I think too, the $4 million mark that you used that's before any expenses are taken out. So we would never realize that kind of money right off the hop, I don't believe, and I would suggest that maybe the CAO could just clarify that. But I will support Councillor Brown's motion, and I think we need to keep trying to get this through. It may be all come on deaf ears with the Premier, but I would support. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Kelly?
I'll be quick. Thank you, through you, Chair. I too will be supporting Councillor Brown's motion. And I've heard these figures before at the Transportation Committee. Before I get into the figure, I mean, the Premier has had some wonderful press conferences, and I think at the ASE conference, at the press conference, when he was talking about speed cameras, I'm not sure if that's the one where he was pouring booze out. However, when he's talking about different communities, Vaughan, Burlington, Kitchener, Toronto, Brampton, like these are big cities, Mississauga area. In that GTA, those communities that we just touched on, that's probably 4 million people. It's not like this traffic calming on Sydney Street or Victoria Street. They're going to be all these speed bumps because we don't have the traffic. And when Councillor Brown said out of 400 kilometers in our city, 400 kilometers, 0.8 kilometers is actually where you're on the camera. Think about that. We know at the Transportation Committee meetings, the last meeting 2 weeks ago, we know that the driving habits are being changed in Belleville. That's a win. People are slowing down. That's a win. There was people on Lemoyne saying that their street now was International Speedway. But they did some research with the city transportation department, and that was not fact, that was fiction. People were actually going slower on Lemoyne Street than using it as a racetrack. So I've seen the Transportation Committee, the team, there's good things going on. This is 0.8 kilometers we're arguing about, and the money, we talk about policing. I'm not too sure if 2 police officers that are added to the team can handle 24/7 speed issues in our city. And we know that the work of our police service has certainly changed in the last 6 or 8 years. So I'm all in. I applaud Councillor Brown for the motion. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to call the vote on this. Councillor Brown, you get to speak last, and then we're calling the vote.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a point of clarification. The provincial offenses budget, which comes as part of Hastings County, automated speed enforcement dollars do not go to Quinte West or to other towns within Hastings County. Automated speed enforcement money is isolated, and it only comes back to the city of Belleville. Other provincial offenses like bylaw enforcement or traffic tickets that are issued by Belleville Police Services is put into a pool and then proportioned out. Automated speed enforcement is not. I just wanted to make sure that was clear so there wasn't any miscommunication with our partners to the north and to the west that they were getting money that they certainly are not.
Okay. Sorry, she spoke last. Did you have a point of order? Did you? I'm going to call the vote on this.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to ask that
Did you want the...
Director Ferguson.
Okay, Treasurer, can you answer the question on where the money comes or goes?
Through the chair to all of council, the POA funding, inclusive of ASE, is handled through provincial offenses. All of the revenue is distributed there, and the issuances of net funds are issued on a ticket issuance basis, proportion between the municipal partners, City of Belleville, Hastings County, and Quinte West.
Okay. Councillor Sue, you can have the floor for a minute here or so, hopefully. Procedure-wise, usually the last person that made the motion speaks last, and we have done that, but under this circumstance, I'll let you speak. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your His Worship.
Yep.
I just wanted to say one thing. I just got an email this morning, and I just wanted to read just one paragraph. The resident urged the city to consider keeping or adding radar speed cameras to help keep everyone safe. I just wanted to say that. Thank you so much, His Worship.
Could I recorded vote, please?
Recorded vote, clerk.
Councillor Brown?
Yes.
Councillor Carr?
No.
Councillor Chatton?
No.
Councillor Enright Miller?
Yes.
Councillor Henderson?
No.
Councillor Kelly?
Yes.
Councillor Sue?
Yes.
Mayor Ellis? Motion lost, Your Worship, by 5. 4. Oh, sorry, it tied. It lost due to a tie.
Okay, announcements. We'll start this by Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor Ellis. Councillor Brown and I will be hosting a Ward 2 Town Hall meeting on Thursday, November 13th at 6:30 p.m. at the Thurlow Community Center. We'll review the 2026 draft capital budget, some current issues before City Council, as well as a question session. There will be a streaming option again this meeting, so if folks want to join virtually, if they send me an email, councillor.carr@belleville.ca, we'll send them the link to join virtually. If you do attend in person, there will be this time around tea, coffee, and desserts as well. So that's Thursday, November 13th.
Councillor Enright Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just I wanted to let everyone know, earlier this year, the Belleville Police Services Board started the development of our strategic plan to ensure the provisions of adequate and effective policing in our community in keeping with the requirements of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019. And we on the BPS board engaged in a broad range of community stakeholders to gather valuable input, and it's helped shape this important plan. I wanted to extend my sincere thank you to everyone who contributed by attending the roundtables, our open houses, and completing this survey. Your insight and participation were vital to this process, and I'm pleased to tell you about the launch we're having on Thursday, October 23rd, and you will have it in your email. All councillors are invited to participate, and we would love to see you out for that. And also, I just wanted to make mention that back in August, we received letters from Mrs. Naylor's grade 8 class at St. Joseph's Elementary School asking about the extension of time for the warming centers, and I've been working with staff about gaining information about time and financing of such. It turns out if we extend time at one warming center, we have to extend them at all, but all is not lost. Councillor Kelly and I were provided the letters, and he and I may just take up the fight to see if we can go out to the community, thanks to Councillor Chatton for bringing that forward, that we may go to the churches around town to see if we can garner any funding for such a thing. So I wanted to thank Mrs. Naylor's class and all the kids who wrote letters, and not that it hasn't all lost. We will continue the fight, so thank you very much.
Okay. Announcements. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. Last Friday, I had a chance to represent the mayor's office at Elevate Plus, another graduation at Loyalist College. Congratulations to Belleville's Carson Kemp, Macaulay Douglas, Robin Fontaine, and Zach Irwin. They all graduated from the Elevate Plus program, teaching them skill sets to get a job in our community, and I believe all 4 have successfully done that, and congratulations to them. And also this weekend, it's Diwali weekend in the city of Belleville, lots going on. Hopefully you have a chance to get out and enjoy cultural dance, different types of food. They have a kids zone, and there'll be dancing at night. It's all free, and good luck to the crew with this weekend's Diwali. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Seeing no more announcements, I have a couple here. I'd like to proclaim October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, October 14th to 20th as, October 21st to 25th Annual Child Care Worker and Child Care Educator Appreciation Day, October 23rd as Wastewater and Stormwater Operations Appreciation Day. I just want to mention that I was at our water filtration plant, and they're very proud that this week is theirs, and Mr. DeCola showed us a great tour. And last, I would like to proclaim the week of October 14th to October 20th as Senators Week, and I'm proud to recognize the Senators as valued ambassadors of our city. The Belleville Senators proudly represent our city and the Quinte area region as American Hockey League affiliate of the Ottawa Senators, and have served as a local source of local pride and community spirit since their arrival in 2017. The team contributes significantly to the economic impact of the city and region through tourism and employment and partnerships with local businesses and organizations. The Senators are also actively engaged with residents through school visits, charity initiatives, community events, and other youth programs that foster teamwork, sportsmanship, and civic pride. The 25-26 AHL season marks another exciting chapter in the team and city hockey history, with their 9th season set to bring together fans, families, and visitors to celebrate the passion of professional hockey in our community. City of Belleville is encouraging all residents to show up their support by wearing the team colors of red and black through the week and joining in the celebrations at the Senators' home opener on Saturday, October 18th, 25, against the rival Toronto Marlies. With that, I'd like a motion for the confirmatory bylaw, the bylaw 25-167, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council meeting be held on October 14th, 25th, 167, confirmation of bylaw 14, October 2025, be read and passed. Moved by Councillor Enright Miller, seconded by carried. Motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Henderson. All in favor, carried.